Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to give you a tour of my fall home decor. If you like this kind of content, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. It's free, and if you hit the bell, you'll be notified every time I upload a video. You can also always find me on Instagram at Nicole Northgarden. Here we go. Fall in Minnesota is a time of preparation. We, like the squirrels we see gathering nuts, ready ourselves for a long, cold winter. When it hits 50 degrees in October, we know that in 3 months' time, it could be 100 degrees colder. 100 degrees. So we try to do everything we need to do outside, because for months we won't be able to. Because winters are so long, I like my home to feel cozy and inviting. Home needs to be a place where we can spend 6 months together, indoors, and not feel too cooped up. I like to use color in my home, because in winter, the outdoors will be a mix of white and gray and brown. And though those colors have their own merit, they're nothing compared to the bright colors, the greens of spring and summer, or the brilliant hues of fall. So color inside is important to me, and you'll notice that as I take you through my home. When you first come up our stairs, the first thing you see is our center island. I try to keep it free of clutter, which is sometimes a losing battle, but I like to include a little decor on it. One thing I usually have on the island is some trays. Trays are one of my favorite things to use in decor because they reduce the number of footprints that you're leaving, which means basically I can have all of these items on a tray reduced to one single footprint, which is the footprint of that bottom tray. So the eye naturally feels less cluttered because all of the things are contained in one place. This is the tray that I made in the Useful DIY Challenge, which I can link below and above. I made it from 2 galvanized pans that I got at yard sales and a Dollar Tree rolling pin. And I've decorated it with some pumpkins that I made last year from wood and some other pumpkins, as well as some vintage kitchen utensils, including an apple cutter and a French fry cutter. Also on the island is this glass pumpkin that we usually fill with candy corn, but we haven't been eating as much candy corn, so I put cookies in it instead, and this beautiful turquoise platter from my friend Tammy, and on top I've placed a mixing bowl filled with apples. The island is an L shape and divides the kitchen from the living room and the dining area. In the living room is this black bookshelf, and I change the decor on this bookshelf every season. I've toyed with painting it white, but I've been too lazy to do so. I like to have every shelf kind of stand alone a little bit, so each one gets its own treatment. On the bottom here I use some of my Fenton glass. And here I have an old tray that I picked up from the bins. This shelf is my favorite this year. A subscriber friend sent me a picture that she saw on Instagram and challenged me to recreate it. And this was my version of that inspiration. And this vintage squirrel plant waterer in a vintage coffee cup is one of my favorite things in my house this year. I love how it looks like I interrupted him when he was doing something in that cup, and he's peeking his head out to see who I am. I also used a lot of my Carnival Glass. I think that's what you've told me it's called. It's iridescent orange glass that I've picked up, and I love how it looks on this shelf. The colors on the top shelf are some of my favorites. I love the way that they play together. I have whites and greens and grays, along with that brown that reminds me of amber glass. You see it in the pomegranates there, and then some more of my Carnival Glass. If I ever do a real redo on this room, this is the color scheme I'm going to choose. I just love how they look together. To the left of the desk is this pine cabinet. I really don't like this cabinet. I have two of them, and I'm hoping to get rid of them, but until I am able to replace them, I make do. They're very deep and dark. Anyway, I have filled them with some milk glass and some Pyrex. Moving around the room, you see this gallery wall, which includes a large clock and some word signs that I've had for years. The wreath is a Pottery Barn dupe, which I made from Dollar Tree items last year. It has fairy lights on it, which I have now remembered to turn on for you. I really like the way it looks hanging on the mirror. And here on the coffee table, I have a tray that I picked up from the bins, as well as a little stand that I made from an old light fixture that I got for free from a yard sale, and an old cake pan. And I spray painted them with hammered aluminum, I think spray paint from Rust-Oleum. That little gray and white pumpkin I made last year using one of my husband's grandmother's spools. And this lantern I got at Goodwill. I got this wooden crate at a yard sale this year and flipped it over to use it more like a little table. And I love the crock with the spindles in it. One of my favorite things. I have a lot of favorite things. On this table on the other side of the chair, I have this blue canning jar lamp that I got at a yard sale this year, and I have filled it with the rest of my husband's grandmother's spools for storage. And I can take them out when I need them for crafts, but for now they look pretty in there. And over here you'll see the cradle that my husband made when our first daughter was born. Now we use it for decor. Moving on to the kitchen proper, on top of the fridge, I have filled 2 old cans that I found at yard sales with florals. I like to do this without any glue so that I can just undo it if I change my mind. Here's an old peanut can and an old coffee can, which I filled with florals from the Dollar Tree. I like to keep a little decor on the corner of our countertop, but it has to be practical as well. This spinning tray I made in the Useful DIY Challenge from an old Lazy Susan, and it has been great to have on the counter. I created this sign from a Dollar Tree sign, which I painted white and used my laser printer transfer method to put words on it. and then dry brushed it to look like an actual board. I love to change this area up for the seasons, and you can see here I've applied some jack-o'-lantern decals to my crock, which I think looks adorable. I got them at the Dollar Tree. And then when October is over, I can take them off and I just go back to having a regular kitchen crock again. To the left of the sink, I have my area where I make coffee. I made this tray from an old picture, which I will probably put a video about. I love the way the decor looks on it right now. I also made this sign from a Dollar Tree sign using the same method. I love the way this one turned out. Here's my vintage coffee carafe, which I recently got basically for free. I was going to put florals in it, but I love how it looks on its own, so I just put it next to my coffee pot. I made this little witch's brew sign. I've actually had this sign for years, and on the back it says, "I want a kitchen that flushes." I keep that near my sink, but I thought for the season I could make it double-sided and just turn it into a cute little coffee bar sign, and then I can change it back. There's a vintage linen I got earlier in the season, and I put it on an old cheese grater. That's always there. That's not just for fall. Moving on to my dining area, this is our very old table, which we got from my mother-in-law. It was my husband's growing up, and I do toy with either painting it or replacing it or stripping it, and I never do anything to it. So here it is, as it is. I put together this vignette in the center in an old fruit crate, and I have a picture in there. You can see I have some spindles, which I'm using as candlesticks. I've added some hedgehog ribbon too. And then I have placed some vintage kitchen utensils in that picture. I tied together that wooden spoon that I recently picked up with some gray buffalo check ribbon. I printed that sign on regular computer paper and just framed it. I recently got this cart from IKEA. It's great for storage. I have it on the bottom as a basket with all my extra candles. I collect different types of white plates. So that's on the left there. There's my Polish pottery, some salt and pepper shakers, and some flower frogs. Those gold plates I just got from the bins. They are gorgeous. There's more of my vintage flower frogs. I love to just look at them. That's why they're out like this. I stuck a pumpkin in one of them. That's a cross stitch I was sent by a subscriber. This old tea set, it's 120 years old. Got it at a thrift store this year. I love the inscription on it. It was given to a couple by a company for some purpose. I've stuck some Dollar Tree florals and more of my favorite gray buffalo check ribbon. I have this old 7-Up crate, which I recently hung on the wall, and put my tiny salt and pepper shakers in it. Here are some of my old flower frogs, and several of you have asked how I use them. My favorite way is to stick vintage or reproduction, old-looking cards in them for each of the different seasons. Inside the hutch, I didn't change much except I added this autumn plate that I found at the bins recently and this little orange vase. And then I did edit out the yellow pottery that I had in here just to reduce the color palette to just white and orange and turquoise. And this is where Nicole Northgarden got her start. This is my first craft project ever. I made it in first grade when I was in brownies, and I distinctly remember doing it and loving the idea of crafting. On this wall, I've hung a basket, which I got at the bins, and then I've changed out that tray 3 different times now. This is my fall version, and I keep some of my little silver and pewter things in front of it, along with that adorable green metal teapot that I got at a sale this year. I've stuck some orange measuring spoons in it for the season, and I do plan to just keep this here and change out the displays as the seasons change. Because of the open concept in our room, we lose a lot of cabinet space above the island and also counter space where you would keep things like a mixer, which is why I got this old filing cabinet at a thrift store, and we use it for our mixer, and it rolls into the kitchen when we need it to. Moving from the dining room to what we call the family room, this is the lusterware bowl I recently found. And to the right is that little shelf that I did in a DIY. And I've put some vintage linens on it in colors that reminded me of the lusterware. And then on the shelf itself is some of my other lusterware collection. I had said that this would contain my collection, but it has now spread to the cabinet as well. That's okay. I'm okay with that. And on top of the cabinet, I have the tea set that I recently got from Tammy Roberts in our triple thrift swap. Look at those young kids. We're about to hit 22 years in October. When we bought our house, we purchased these blue spinning rocking chairs so that people could sit in them and converse with people in the family room or in the great room at the same time. I have this little tray that I found at a thrift store, which serves as a great place to put a drink or a snack when you're sitting in the blue chair. I found this old lantern at a rummage sale. It was missing its glass, so I put pumpkins and fairy lights and a bow on it and gave it new life. That cross-stitch project I actually made. I like to do little projects for the holiday seasons, so you'll see them pop up in my decor from time to time. Here's one of my cheese boxes, which I've filled with raffia and fairy lights and pumpkins. And here's a little peek into what it looks like at night with the fairy lights on. I thought you might like to see that. Here is my fall mantle. I enjoy changing this for each of the seasons. I do change that mirror. In the summertime, I have a boat picture that goes above the mantle. And these candles come on and off by themselves. They are on a timer. Another of our wedding pictures, cutting the cake. And that little thankful pumpkin my friend Tammy made for me last year. I bought this vase well before we actually had a house to put it in, and I said if I ever had a house with a mantle, I would put the vase on it, and that's where it has lived since we moved in. And here's a peek at what it looks like in the evening with the candles lit. To the left of the fireplace is this TV cabinet, which I picked up at Goodwill for $4.99. And the only fall decor in it is this little old cheese tray and dome, which I painted white and put some velvet pumpkins in. This spot on this love seat is my spot for sure. I love to sit here when I watch TV, and this little table provides a place for my coffee cup or for my drink. And I sit here and watch TV, and I am a happy camper. That brings us to the end of our tour. I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I decorated my home to make it cozy for fall. If you like this kind of content, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, and of course you can always find me on Instagram at Nicole Northgarden. Thanks so much for watching.